Good evening and welcome to Let's Go Green with myself, Zoe Ryan, in for Aisling O'Rourke again this evening. On tonight's show, we'll be exploring how to make our shops, schools and homes more sustainable. To do that, Waste Prevention Officer with My Waste, Will Mitchell, will be joining me to discuss their latest campaign. Founder of So Sustainable, Miriam Keegan, fills us in on her upcoming summer classes. And Angela Mockler of Angie's Attic Furniture Upstyling reveals the joys of salvaging a pre-loved item. Now, you may recall a change that happened back in 2021. Cast your mind back for a moment to when you first ordered a drink in a restaurant, bar or other social setting, and instead of a plastic straw propped in the glass, there was a paper one. Well, that was thanks to the introduction of a ban on a certain group of single-use plastic items such as plastic straws. But how well adhered to is that ban almost 5 years on? Here to talk to me about a new initiative designed to help retailers across Ireland take that final step in completely removing the blacklisted item from sale and use in their businesses is Will Mitchell from My Waste. Will, you are very welcome onto the show this evening.
Zoe, it's great to be here. Thanks.
Will, talk me through the campaign. What's involved in it?
So this campaign is really about eliminating the last few banned single-use plastic items that are in Ireland. There are 10 specific banned single-use plastics. They are cutlery, cotton bud, chopsticks, polystyrene food and drinks containers, drink stirrers, plates, balloon rods, straws, as well as all oxo-degradable plastics. So what this campaign wants to do is raise awareness of the regulations, but also support businesses to make sure that they're aware of these items. And we've done this by creating a free-to-download toolkit that all businesses can use just to make sure that they check their stocks completely, get rid of any of the banned items that they might find and replace them with sustainable alternatives. That
ban that you mentioned there on those items, that was introduced back in 2021. So it's been around for a couple of years. We all would have noticed as consumers seeing that transition, most notably from the plastic straws to the paper straws. I think that's the one most people will have noticed in their daily life, as you said there as well about the cutlery. When you're getting takeaway cutlery, a lot of it's moved over from plastic to more of the alternatives. But how has that been adhered to by retailers? Has the uptake been quite positive, or what's it been like?
Yeah, the vast majority of retailers have done really great work in replacing these banned single-use plastics with sustainable alternatives. So what we're seeing is that there are sustainable alternatives for all of the banned items, and it's only a very small number of retailers that are still making them available. But we actually believe that this is more a case of a lack of awareness of the regulations rather than anybody trying to get away with anything.
Okay, and you said that that's probably the most case why if you do walk in now and you see the likes of your plastic straws, your plastic cutleries, it mightn't be from badness. It could be literally just as you said there, that it's just they're not aware of it. But was there much backlash at the time? Was it something that retailers were saying, yeah, okay, if that's the new regulation, that's what it is and we're happy to adhere to it? Or did you get much backlash back then?
Retailers definitely were resistant at the start because people prefer things like the smooth plastic straw rather than the paper ones that people give out about. But look, in all honesty, the paper straws have come a long way in those 2 years, so they're a little bit more rigid and a lot more pleasant now. But look, like I said, the vast majority of retailers are now on board.
And do you think that resistance at the start, was it exactly that it was, well, we're getting, complaints from our customers that they don't want it? Or was it a case of were the alternatives more expensive? Or was it that the alternatives weren't as easily available?
To be honest, I think it was probably a mix of all three. At the start of the ban, there weren't as many sustainable alternatives that were readily available. They are a little bit more costly in a lot of the cases. But in our research, we found that only 4% of businesses that we surveyed were making these items available.
And tell me this, you've said that these items, they're banned, but they're obviously still being manufactured because they are still seen in circulation. So where is it that they're coming from?
We think that a lot of these are making their way into the country from small orders being made on an individual basis from foreign websites. Okay. So it's less so the case that there are importers bringing them into the country in their millions as they might have done 10 years ago.
And your research has found that even though it is a small percentage, there's still a case where, retailers are going to suppliers and they're still being offered some of the single-use plastics. How is it that you would look to maybe tackle that? I mean, is there anything that can be done to stop these manufacturers altogether from making these items?
Well, single-use plastic ban isn't worldwide, so people are still going to be making them, and I suppose they want to make money, so they're going to offer them as well. So this campaign is all about focusing on the retailers and businesses that we have in Ireland, increasing their awareness and getting them to download our toolkit from mywaste.ie/SUP to check those stocks and make sure that they're fully compliant. One thing that we saw from the research was quite interesting is that behaviour is actually ahead of awareness.
Okay.
So while 50% of the businesses were aware of the regulations, which is a fairly low number, only 4% of them are buying them in. And of the businesses that were offered single-use plastics, only 50% of them actually bought them recently, which is a very direct correlation between the awareness and then the action.
So is there any repercussion for, say, if a retailer is found to still be selling these, or like that if you go into a pub or a restaurant and they're still offering them, is there any repercussions there? Is there anything that can be done to that? Will they be fined, or is there anything that comes out of it?
There are potential fines for anybody bringing the banned single-use plastics into the country. That could be a fine up to €2,000 and 12 months in prison.
And how is it currently being policed?
The EPA are the enforcement body for this. So I wouldn't have information on any fines that have been given out, but I know that they've been doing great work in tracking down the last few suppliers.
Sure. And so you said that new kind of manual, if you want, that you're offering to retailers, that's going to help them to be able to identify the single-use plastics if they're not aware of them, and to be checking that they're not adding and contributing to the problem by still buying them in and offering them. But for the consumer, which is probably the majority of people who are listening to us this evening, people who are actually going into the likes of shops, restaurants, and maybe purchasing or availing of these items, what is it that they can do to maybe to help with this, to try and eliminate them? Is it a case of, can they, obviously, if there's an option of two there, the option would be to buy the other option, the more sustainable rather than the plastics. But can they report if they see that there's any kind of misuse or breach of this? Can they report that?
Yes, they can. There's a reporting mechanism through the EPA site, or you can, again, on our own page, mywaste.ie/SUP, we have a link to that form as well. So there's a very straightforward mechanism that you can report instances. But for your former point, we would always encourage people to opt for the reusable items. So whether that's bringing in your cutlery from home for use at your workplace salad bar or your reusable flask or anything like that, always opt for the reusable, durable items that are going to last a long time, rather than anything that you're going to dispose of after one or two uses.
And Will, for those who maybe aren't fully aware of the repercussions of using the likes of a plastic straw, the likes of your plastic cutlery, this seems like such a small thing, but making that swap can make a massive impact to the environment. So for those who are listening who are maybe going, what's the harm? You know, it's just a little straw. What is the harm in using these items? And I suppose, why were they banned in the first place? Yeah,
it's a really good question. I always like the quote of, it's just one plastic straw, said 8 billion people.
Yeah.
These things add up, and it's not just because they're bad for the environment. They are a huge litter problem, especially in our waterways, which is where they accumulate. They make up a huge percentage of the litter at sea. They break down into microplastics, which is unfortunately a phrase that we're mostly all familiar with now. They're getting into the food chain. They're latching on to toxins and poisoning fish. And unfortunately, that makes its way up into our food systems as well. When we eat the fish that have plastic inside them, we're consuming the plastic ourselves. And there's lots of human tissue samples with microplastics in them. So the less we expose ourselves to plastics, the less plastics we have inside us.
So as you said there, it may seem like only a small, insignificant thing, but it really does make a big difference by making those small swaps.
Absolutely.
Will, thank you very much for your time today, and remind us before you go where retailers can find that self-audit checklist.
mywaste.ie/SUP.
Fantastic. Will, thanks again.
Thank you very much.
I actually saw at the weekend that Flavins are scrapping their iconic red porridge scoop in an attempt to reduce plastic waste, stating you don't need single-use plastic to make your quick porridge oats, just 30 grams of lovely jubbly baked quick oats. Now, they've even started their own campaign titled #SaveYourScoop to raise awareness about the change, encouraging customers to keep hold of existing scoops, as they won't be including them in their quick oats drums going forward. Now, the announcement has been met with with mixed reactions, with people questioning if it's a genuine move to cut down on plastic or just a step to cut their costs disguised as an environmental decision. Hard to know. But if you're a school teacher who has been trying but struggling to get your students into sustainability, this next segment is for you.
Let's Go Green, sponsored by AirGrid, managing and operating Ireland's electricity grid for a cleaner energy future. Check out airgrid.ie for more.
It is Let's Go Green with Zoe Ryan sitting in for your usual host Aisling O'Rourke this evening. Now, for a long time, schools, both primary and secondary, have been doing their bit to try and steer the minds of younger and up-and-coming generations into being more environmentally conscious, introducing the likes of green schools and competitions like Junket Tour. My next guest specialises in sustainable education and is running a number of courses across the summer to help teachers get their students thinking more sustainably in a creative and fun, memorable way. Joining me now is the founder of So Sustainable, Miriam Keegan. Miriam, thank you for agreeing to take my call this evening.
Thank you, Zoe. I'm very excited to chat with you this evening.
No problem, Miriam. Now, tell me, before we get into talking about the courses that you're going to be running, talk me about how So Sustainable came to being, where it all began.
Yeah, I mean, I started off as a primary school teacher myself, and I was teaching for about 5 years. And during that time, I was studying like fashion design on the side, and I think I got exposed to the whole world of fast fashion and went down a rabbit hole, and I don't think I ever came out of it. And as a result, I noticed that there was like a kind of a gap between fashion design knowledge and sustainability, and how to easily bring that into like a primary school or even secondary school. And so I kind of created an online course for teachers so that they could really easily and in a creative way bring sustainability and fashion into the classroom without adding climate change guilt, because we're all feeling it no matter what way we look. And definitely for kids is to understand that they are part of the solution and not the problem, and that we just need to start thinking about how our clothes affect our world and ourselves, and how to do it in just a fun way.
And why did you decide to run this collection of courses? Why was it that you felt like it was needed in the likes of, you've mentioned there, the primary schools?
Yeah, so part of our curriculum is one piece of it is the visual art curriculum, and one strand unit within that is fabric and fibre. And it was something that I noticed myself, but also from working in other schools, that part of it is to create a costume with kids. And I mean, I've never seen anyone pick up a sewing needle with the kids and teach them how to actually do the basics of sewing. Yeah. And I knew that was because we as teachers, we were never taught, and generations before us might have, but I was learning the 1999 curriculum, and it hasn't really changed a whole lot since. So I kind of knew what I was talking about when I knew that there was a gap there. And I just wanted this to show teachers just how easily it is to be able to just slowly bring it in. It doesn't mean that everyone's going to be working on sewing machines straight away, but it's that we can actually really safely, but really in a nice creative way, bring sewing needles into the classroom, get children to talk about textiles and understand where they come from, that they're not just, clothes don't just appear in shops, that they come from somewhere and they came from either a chemical or from a plant, and that there's many hands working on them. And I just wanted to give teachers the power of knowledge, of understanding the system themselves first, and giving them the skills of learning how to sew, so that they can then easily and in a fun way give it as a nice lesson to add into their classroom, because it connects with so many different areas in our curriculum. Because I focus on art, let's say, but it connects massively with literacy and maths and SESE and SPHE, so it's all encompassing really. So fashion is just the theme, but it trickles down into so many other areas.
Yeah, it's as if fashion is the kind of hook that gets them in and intrigued. But then, as you said, there's other subjects that you're kind of bringing it into and making it relevant. So it's a way of kind of teaching it to them in a way that's going to be, as we said, fun and easy to remember. But last year you ran a number of these courses throughout the summer months for teachers. You've decided to bring it back on the success of last year. So talk to me about the offering that you have this coming summer.
Yeah, so at the minute I have 3 courses on offer. The first one is on the visual art curriculum, and it's focusing on teaching teachers how to sew. So it's called Fabric and Fibre in the Classroom. And the second one is on sustainable fashion and maths in the classroom. So I understand that not everyone is going to be a fashion designer when they're older, but I understand that I work in human rights in the fashion industry as well as this. So I understand that a lot of our issues come from engineering issues. So we need kids to understand that they can be part of the solution to the fashion industry without having to be in the traditional design route, and understanding the logistics and the life cycle of clothing. So, for example, with the maths course, I get teachers to bring it really easily into their lessons by looking at a t-shirt and saying, well, how far has that travelled before it got to you? Because, I've done life cycle assessments, and sometimes a blazer will travel 55,000 kilometres before it gets to the consumer. And, that's just the reality of our global system, because a lot of our clothes are not made completely in Ireland. Very few are. And between that and getting them to see the ethical side of it too, and looking at, let's say, a €5 t-shirt, and asking the kids, well, let's break this down. How much do you think goes to the brand? How much do you think goes to the worker that made it? And then getting them to realise there's a discrepancy here. There's inequality in the system, and getting them to understand that living wage and minimum, not necessarily minimum wage, but just that wages for workers are a lot lower than people realise. And in the system, in the fashion industry, we are trying to progress towards a living wage. That's not the reality yet, but the more that we give permission to talk about these topics and get consumers to understand that this system is a little bit broken here, and we need to all come together and understand it. And just from there, when we know better, we can do better as well. And the final course I have is on sustainable costume making in the classroom. So this is probably for the more creative teacher, where they are really interested in, let's say, theatre, but also costumes are needed in classrooms every single day. If it's not Halloween, it's Christmas, it's Easter, it's World Book Day, etc. So getting teachers to understand that they can build collections based on modular pieces. So looking at, for example, making a cape out of a t-shirt and learning how to add pieces to it and taking them off, and minding those pieces for the next season of whatever is needed in a show, and getting them to understand that, but also zero waste approaches to fashion design as well. It's not perfect. There's no such thing as zero waste, I feel, in the fashion industry, because of offcuts that come off things you cut. But it's a progress step, and it's just given teachers permission to think differently, but also to really pare back and really adjust to their classroom needs, because we have so many different needs in our classrooms nowadays, that understanding that it doesn't have to be exactly like what you see in a lesson plan or exactly what you see online to produce something meaningful. Like, sustainability is iterative, it's going to take time, it's messy, and just giving that kind of agency to teachers and then in turn to kids.
Yeah, and as you said, it's about tailoring it to your classroom and I suppose to your students to fit to what you want it to be. I was interested to know how you were going to swindle the maths into it, but you've actually approached it in a really clever way, so well done on that. But they're advertised as being fully online and self-paced. So although you're based in Emo and County Laois, teachers from all across the Midlands region and indeed the country could sign up to the course.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't be everywhere all at once. So, for teachers when they're doing summer courses, some people opt to do in-person ones, but I have just made this completely online, because whether you're, in Dublin or Galway or in Spain by the pool, you'll be able to do this course to get your EPV days, which is obviously the biggest incentive for teachers, during the summer to do this course. But it's that they have the resources there for the year once they get back into the classroom in September. And I send out a really kind of nice sample sewing kit, so that when they're doing the assignments on the course, that they have the resources that they need to try it out themselves. Because if you don't try it, you'll never if you don't try it during the course, you won't really have the courage to do it in class. And everybody is starting from scratch, I feel, with this course. And then there's some very seasoned sewers that join this course as well, and they just want to know, how do I connect this to sustainability and to maths and to different topics? Because even the history, Irish history in textile and needlecraft is so profound. And even, because of, let's say, Mount Mellick embroidery nearby, it's so rich in culture, and we just need to bring that back to the Irish heritage and be informed then by the global best practices that are out there.
And you have a free workshop this coming Thursday on April 30th.
Yes, I do. So if anyone is kind of interested in just understanding what's involved in these courses and maybe decide which one of them is available or is most appropriate to your class needs next year, yes, so we have it on Thursday at 7 p.m. and it's a really short kind of workshop because I'm very conscious of everybody's time, and it's just going through 3 kind of different easy little ideas that you could do next week with very little prep, no budget, and just realise how easy it is to bring this into your classroom.
And although I've only gotten used to writing 2026, summer's not that far away. It's not as far away as you might think. It'll be upon us very shortly. And given that Miriam is running a special discount offer at the moment, it's an ideal time to start thinking about your summer plans. So Miriam, give us a breakdown quickly of the price points that you're offering for these courses.
Yeah, so up until the 1st of May, I actually have the early bird offer, which is the lowest it'll be all summer. They will see advertisements going, but it will not get any lower than this. So at the minute, for one course, it's €69, and that includes a free sewing kit as well. It's posted directly to your door. And then if you buy 2 of the courses, which means you'd get 4 EPV days off, that would be €109. And then if you buy the 3 courses, you get 5 EPV days, a sewing kit, and that is for €119. And that again ends on May 1st. So now is the chance to get the best offer. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, Miriam, I really appreciate you giving your time this evening for taking my call. So thanks a million for that.
Absolutely, Zoe. I really appreciate it.
Thanks a million. Still to come are your kitchen chairs or maybe your sitting room coffee table looking a bit worse for wear, but you're not quite yet ready to part with them. Well, you might get some tips on what to do with them when what's coming up after this.
Let's Go Green, sponsored by EirGrid, managing and operating Ireland's electricity grid for a cleaner energy future. Check out airgrid.ie for more.
You are listening to Let's Go Green with thanks to EirGrid on Midlands 103 with Zoe Ryan in for Aisling O'Rourke. Now, I think we've all probably tried our hand at a DIY job around the house at some stage, and sometimes it results in us saying, yeah, I could do that again. But more often it ends in frustration and us calling in an expert. Well, a lady who didn't expect to enjoy upcycling quite as much, to such an extent that she now does it for other people, is Angela Mockler of Angie's Attic Furniture Upstyling in Durrow. Angela, thank you for agreeing to come on the show this evening.
You're welcome, Zoe. Nice to talk to you.
Now, Angie's Attic Furniture Upcycling, little bit of a mouthful there, but very visual nonetheless. Tell me the story behind the name.
Well, I suppose it's Angie as in my name, Attic. I, over many years, have had just a bit of a graw for upstyling little bits of furniture or items around the house. And as the years went on, I gathered a few bits, and when I didn't have the time or the inclination to do something with it, it went in the attic, and hence Angie's Attic was born. So that's basically where and how it started, just having a little bit of a passion, I suppose, for recycling, reusing, as opposed to throwing out and buying new. That's always been a thing that I've preferred to do personally, yeah.
And how did you get into the upcycling furniture? You said it's always kind of been something that's maybe been a hobby or an interest of yours, but when did you start doing it, I suppose, more seriously, where you actually set up the page?
Well, I guess when I had the time to devote to it, really, now it didn't start out as any grand plan or clear vision at all, Zoe. It started with a single piece of furniture that most people probably would have walked past without a second look. A couple of bits that I would have found in charity shops, spotting something tucked away in a corner of a charity shop, scratched and forgotten about, or nobody paying much attention to it, but it would have caught my attention because I love quirky, different little pieces that you don't see everywhere. And primarily small little bits of furniture is what I tend to do when I do this, because I just don't have the space to do large scale, like dressers or wardrobes or bed frames and things like that, although I'd love to, but I just simply don't have the space for it presently. But small little pieces of furniture I would pick up here and there on my travels, and anytime I go away out of the county on holidays or anything, you'll normally find me dipping into a charity shop somewhere along the road and picking up something to bring home with me to give it a new lease of life.
And you said that the projects that you would tend to embark on, they're small scale, they're little pieces that you're picking up for yourself. But is it typically that? Is it that you're picking up pieces that you see and you see potential and say, okay, I'll pick that up and I'll upcycle it? Or do you get that people are reaching out to you and saying, I have this piece of furniture, I'm not sure if anything can be done with it to change it for my space. Is this something you can help me with?
It's a bit of both. Mainly I pick up bits, do, what I feel people would look for and looks good on this particular little chair or coffee table or blanket box or, small little pieces like that people can incorporate into a sitting room or bedroom or living room or whatever. And then on the other hand, people would see pieces I do and think, oh God, I'd love one of those. If I have a box like that at home or a table like that, would you do something with it, or could you do anything with this? And I'd say, yeah, sure. Can you send me a few pictures and I'll take a look at it and send you back a few different ideas, or what kind of colour scheme have you in the room or the child's bedroom or whatever. And it's a great release, I suppose. It's a bit of a sense of calm, expressing your creativity and the satisfaction you get out of doing something and it working out. Now, it doesn't always work out, granted. There's a lot of trial and error goes into these things, and painting and, removing that paint and sanding back and doing it another way. But it's just great. There's a great, I suppose it's a sense of therapy as well, when you're working and everybody has busy, hectic lives, and, your job, your kids, your house, your everything is kind of eating into your own sense of calmness.
And you mentioned there about the trial and error. What type of errors have you come across where maybe you went about doing something a certain way and went, okay, this isn't working, and you've had to backtrack and try different ways? Is there any examples you could give us?
Oh, yeah, in the early days, like uneven brush strokes and even colour choices that, I imagined in my head was going to turn out lovely, but it didn't come out to be the shade of green that I wanted, or the shade of blue that was, going to match with whatever else was in the room.
What would be the most unusual item that you have been asked to upcycle, or that you spotted yourself and that you've upcycled?
A funeral table. There was a little table that I actually saw in a charity shop and kind of caught my eye because it was a high table with a lifting top, a tabletop that lifted, and there was little sections underneath it. And it was only later that somebody actually told me that it was a wake table, I think it was. Yeah, a wake table, that it was used to be used in, obviously in a room where, at a funeral where the body was being laid out, and the little table was used then for the holy water and the candle and the cross, crucifix and different things. So that was a little bit unusual. So I was very careful with what I did with that little table, but it found a good home anyway, and it was nicely done. And there's a lot of little pieces as well, Zoe, that you'll find that it's almost a sin to put a paintbrush to them, or a piece of sandpaper to them, because they're just so unique and old. And the handmanship, the craftsmanship in some old little pieces of furniture, you'll never see again, and like, I'd throw paint at somebody that would do something to a piece of furniture that is just irreplaceable. It's lovely to upstyle furnishings and to give them back a little bit of life, but there's life in these old pieces of furniture that shouldn't be taken from them too. So
yeah, I suppose there's an element of not wanting to ruin it. Like a lot of the time we'd find that people saying they just don't build things like they used to, and they don't. There's some things that the way that things would have been made or crafted years ago, you just don't see it anymore. And as you say, it's nearly a sin to maybe go at it and to take away too much from its original design. So would you feel sometimes that you're a bit conflicted that someone might bring you something and have a completely different idea for it, and you're looking at it going, I really don't know if we should be changing the character of it this much?
Yeah, I'd have the conversation with them, and I'd be torn between walking away from it and taking it on as a little task for them, and you're caught between a rock and a hard place, because, as I say, I love old little pieces of furniture. I suppose that would have come a little bit from my dad, my late father Jack. He would have loved quirky, just old pieces of furniture, and would have visited many auction rooms in his day. So I suppose that's where a little bit of the love of this comes from. And another uncle on my other side would have been a little bit artistic as well in his paintings and things like that. And sometimes people will settle for a small upstyle on it, a light sanding, and maybe just feed the wood, give it a drink, as they say. Instead of putting primer and paint on it, just feed the natural wood that's there.
And this is, of course, something that we should all be trying to engage in when we can. It's not a case of we should always be going out and buying new furniture. We need to start thinking more about our practices of furniture buying. And instead of thinking you always need to buy new, we should be seeking out these pieces in the likes of your charity shops or looking online at your retailers, your Facebook markets, etc. and seeing maybe pieces and seeing potential in them. It's been open to looking 100%. At an item and saying, that's not exactly what I was going for, but maybe if I make this little tweak and that, and even if you can't do it yourself, it's about reaching out to people like yourself who would have some experience in it to be able to make those amendments for you.
That's it. And you said there, even if you don't do it yourself or you feel you're not able to do it yourself, I didn't come into this as an expert, or not that I am now, but I get a love, the joy out of doing this. And I suppose the more you do something, the better you get at it. I mean, there's workshops out there. People can learn how to do these little bits of upstyling, and there's great crack in going to these workshops and engaging with other people who would love to do it as a hobby or just do up a few bits in the house. And a lot of people who buy houses, especially if you buy an older house, sometimes the furniture gets left behind and they don't do a house clearance. You buy the house as is, and sometimes people just haven't the chance to clear the house. There's little bits of furniture in there that can easily be upstyled. And, when you do upstyle something, I mean, you're actively reducing your carbon footprint straight away, because, by repurposing or reusing old furniture, like older pieces, instead of buying new, you're effectively minimising the need for making more new furniture, because you're reusing what's already here. Obviously, as a consequence of that, fewer resources are used in production processes, which again is leading to lower greenhouse gas emissions and less energy consumption. So by buying upcycled or, kind of recycled furniture, not only do you get a unique and a nice little quirky, stylish piece suited to your home, but you're contributing to the greener environment and reducing waste and promoting sustainability, really. But there's great entertainment and enjoyment out of doing a little piece like that. And like I said, it's not that I had any expert skills when I started out either, but I just learned through YouTube videos. I went on a couple of the workshops. People would have Facebook pages up where they show you how they take a piece from start to finish. And from watching those things, you learn how to get the best out of the greener products as well. Because a lot of these, like the likes of the paint strippers and things like that, if you need to remove paint from a product, they can be harmful to the environment. So trying to avoid anything like that is high on my list.
When you do upcycle something, whether it's by your own hand or not, from my experience in it, any of the little items that I've actually taken on, granted a lot of them would have been during the COVID years of when we had a little bit more time to do it, you feel a sense of pride in them, don't they? And they mean something more to you than a piece that maybe you would have just purchased. It's like I'm looking at some items in the house where maybe I'm going, that was a great purchase now during COVID and it gave me great enjoyment upcycling it. It probably doesn't serve the purpose that I wanted it to, but I don't know if I could ever part with it because I did it myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And 60 to 70% of what I do out in my little workshop is, it's not about getting something perfect or becoming an expert at upstyling or upcycling furniture, but it's learning. It's the joy in learning through the process of doing it and making the mistakes and realising how to get it right for the next time.
And as you said, sometimes it can only be really small tweaks that you make and it just can completely transform the piece and be exactly what someone is looking for. But Angela, I know that earlier on this year you would have received some funding from circular.ie. What was it that funding was to go towards?
That was circular.ie, who are, it's the Rediscovery Centre, the National Centre for the Circular Economy. And I saw this advertised actually online and I thought, you know what, maybe it might just be something that I could get a little bit of support from in relation to marketing, because the Facebook page is grand, but I know there's more that I could use it for and how to use that. So to get a little bit of advice on a marketing side of things. So what I have done with that is I have engaged with somebody who's going to give me a hand to do more on my Facebook page. I've got a couple of the pull-up banners and hopefully in the near future I might do a little workshop where I can show people how to get started into different things like this, and let them have a go themselves, and you know, see how much fun it is to get involved in upstyling little bits of furniture that they might have in the shed, they might have in their own attic, or they might have in the spare room that they'd love to do something with, and are probably nervous or don't think they can, but you can. And start small, you know, just start with even like coasters or a breadboard or you know, a little chair or a table or anything at all that you don't mind messing up, like, you know. And even if you get it perfect the first time, like, you know, have another go then with something else and go from there, like, you know. There's all different things you can do. Even my local further education centre here in Abbelegg, they do a little furniture upholstery course. That's another side of things that I might look into doing when and if I can get the time to do that. Show people a few of the little techniques.
And as you say, if nothing else, it is a lovely pastime to have. It can be quite relaxing to do. You come out of it with a lovely piece that's unique and that you can feel a sense of pride in. But as well as that, there is the factor of, as well as it obviously being good for the environment, it's good for the economical for yourself in regards to, you mentioned there about reupholstering. I know the likes of, if you were to get someone to reupholster something for you, it can be quite a high cost. And sometimes you're looking at things going, if only I could do it myself. Now, I know we're not trying to put tradespeople out of work, but it
Absolutely
is, there's just some little things, little alterations that you'd say, I'd love to do it myself, and you have that sense of pride in it.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And like I say, it's as you well got to there, it's not about taking any work from anyone. It's 100% a hobby. I love doing it. It gets me out into the garden and into the shed, and it's a joy to see a piece saved from landfill, you know, or even, you know what, I've actually picked things up in landfill. So I've gone down to get rid of other
and brought things
that
back.
need to be recycled and brought back more. So it's just very enjoyable.
Angela, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you this evening about this. If anybody's interested in seeing some of your work and maybe availing of your services, where can they find out more about you?
Well, on Facebook, it's Angie's Attic Upstyling. I have pieces that I do myself, and I pop them up there and sell a few bits on that. And if somebody wanted me to do something in a small scale, I can take a look, or if they want to contact me through the Facebook page, that's perfectly fine.
Brilliant, Angela. Thank you again for so much time, giving me so much of your time this evening. As I said, it really has been an enjoyable conversation, and hopefully encourages people to maybe look at that piece of furniture that you have in the corner that you're thinking, I think it has seen better days, before you maybe send it to the landfill. Well, I mean, it could have a second day if you send it to the landfill. Someone like yourself could pick it up there. But maybe you could say to yourself, is it something that can be salvaged? Can I make some sort of amendment to it to make it fit my home as it currently stands? Or maybe that I'm going to change it too. And maybe give it a second life. Don't throw it out yet. Have a think. Just stop and think and go, could I or someone else get use out of this piece?
Absolutely, yeah. Like, even as much as, like, if you don't have a Facebook page or a done deal page, whatever, just throw it up on that and put it up free, you know, because some of the bigger groups that would do little workshops, they'd be looking to pick up pieces like that they can show people how to do, you know, different stenciling on, or a bit of decoupage or gold leafing or whatever, and to be able to pick up little bits online that are offered up free, and then somebody else can learn how to do a little bit of upstyling on as well. Or
you can, of course, as we said, we mentioned there about, you can pick up lovely pieces in second-hand shops. That's always an option too. As you said, if you don't want to actually get any finance out of it yourself, you're just going, it's not for me anymore, but maybe instead of sending it to a landfill, pop it into your local charity shop. Angela, thank you again for speaking with me.
You're very welcome, Zoe. Lovely to chat to you.
There you go. Maybe that has inspired you to do something with that piece of furniture that has been on your mind, whether it's giving upcycling a go yourself, bringing the piece to someone like Angela to give it a new lease of life, or putting it up on one of those pre-loved selling platforms, or just giving it into your local charity shop, as we said there, for someone else to get use out of it. All efforts towards that circular economy that we're always trying to build and to just become commonplace. Up next, more ways to make your home more sustainable.
Let's go green, sponsored by EirGrid, managing and operating Ireland's electricity grid for a cleaner energy future. Check out airgrid.ie for more.
You are tuned into Zoe Ryan on Midlands 103 with Let's Go Green, where this evening we've been discussing ways to make our shops, schools and homes more sustainable. Now, there's been a resurgence of conversation in the media today on the back of the Minister for Finance, Simon Harris, suggesting at an event he attended over the weekend that the government are considering making one-off payments to help people with making the switch from relying on fossil fuels to more sustainable home heating systems, cars and so on. In fact, it was just this morning that we had Offaly TD Deputy John Clendenning on the Midlands Today show talking about HVO and retrofitting, which were massive topics of discussion at the station's Home and Energy show earlier this year. So I thought I would play out some of the interviews I conducted at that event with exhibitors, local businesses who offer services that can help you with making your home more sustainable.
Fraber pellet stoves, so we supply and fit boiler, room heater pellet stoves.
Pellet stoves have been gaining attraction and popularity over the past number of years. Why do you think that is? What's the driving force behind people making that change?
I'd say easy use and less hassle compared to solid fuel, obviously, and more control over a heating system is a big thing as well. You know, rather than either on or off like oil, you can have different levels, and you know, they're automated now as well. They work off a phone remotely, and yeah.
So you mentioned their ease of use. I know something for us that it's always the area of contention at the end of it is we do have a couple of open fire stoves in the house. It's the clean up afterwards. It's cleaning them out, getting rid of your ashes. With your pellet stove, what's the difference there?
But we have boiler pellet stoves that you can leave for 10 days, even 2 weeks, because they're self-cleaning, and then it's still only a 5-minute job to empty the ashes, wipe the glass with an ash vac. Compared to solid fuel, you'd have the same ashes in a day or two, you know, so it's probably way less than 10% ashes compared to solid fuel.
And who would be your ideal person listening today that might say, I think a pellet stove might be an option for me? Is there people that would be suitable for, and equally, is there any situations where you'd say maybe a pellet stove wouldn't be right for your home?
Yeah, 100%. Sometimes if the plumbing system is old or whatever, it mightn't suit them. But we do all that in the survey. But for older people that want to get away from solid fuel, they're a great option because there are grants available through the county council. You know, so it's a great option for them to change to something cleaner and less hassle. Yeah.
Talk me through the process then. Someone says, I think maybe a pellet stove's for me. If they're looking into it to see, you mentioned there about a survey, so it's an initial getting in touch with you, and what follows?
Yeah, we have a showroom in Rochester Bridge, so the best thing to do is to call, make an appointment to see us. You can see the range of stuff we have, and then if you're interested, we can call to the house and do a proper survey for you then.
Jerry Walsh, Energy Superstore. Heat pumps, ventilation, heat recovery, Nemo clothes dryers. We're introducing as well Unico. It's ventilation, heating and cooling. And we have underfloor heating as standard and ventilation heat recovery as standard. So any energy product for a new house.
So for new house, what about people who are maybe looking to improve their own home? Would they be kind of your target audience as well, or is it more targeted at your new builds?
Yeah, the new grants now, 12,500. If you have oil in your house and you want to get rid of it and put in a heat pump, like 12,500 is incredible grants. So if someone has oil and high bills and they're doing up their house, they're making it energy efficient, we take care of the heating side of things, producing the energy. We don't do the insulation and that side of it, but it's part and parcel of the same thing. You really have to bring your house up to a B1 standard to put in our products. So if your house is leaking like a sieve, you really have to look at the fabric. There's no point in putting in our products. You just get yourself a high bill. And we won't put them into where we give people a high bill. So B1 standard, and the grants are there from SEI now for anyone they're incredible grants.
So my company's name is OCM Security and Electrical, and we also have a company called OCM Energy. Our biggest seller now would be solar. Solar is moving at a rapid pace. I would say to anyone now in this day and age is thinking about solar, it's the way to go. It's a no-brainer. It works right from the start. You have savings of at least 50% up to 80%. They're very little maintenance, to them. Lots of solar companies are out there. I suppose the pros to us is we're local. No issues with other bigger companies, but they still can't give that level of service that a local person has. We're one-stop shop in-house. We have our own electricians, our own roofers. We do everything from start to finish. When you deal with somebody, you want to be able to pick up the phone and speak to that person. You don't want a company that is 3 to 4 hours away, and unfortunately in the solar game that's the way a lot of it is. You're going to get people that's going to come down from Kerry and Donegal. No issue with the install. The problem is the backup service. When something goes wrong, is somebody really going to travel 4 hours back down? They've got their money, the job has been done. So local, I think, is brilliant.
Yeah, and that's the difference, as you said. It's the follow-up care that you can offer, and I suppose even just going out to the house, scope it out, see is this suitable for the likes of solar panels. You're easily more accessible to get an appointment with, rather than, said, someone who's travelling hours down to you. But on that topic of maybe suitability, is there homes that maybe you're going, I know with a new build it's very easy to say put in the solar panels, it's a no-brainer in this day and age in a new build. For people who are saying, well, I have an existing house but I'm looking into solar, are there houses that would be ideal for it, and equally are there ones where you're saying not maybe suitable for a solar panel?
100%. My whole thing about solar is return on investment. If you're not going to get your money paid back in a short period of time, I don't see it viable. You'll have other companies that will sell 4 to 6 panels because it's a sale. Let's call a spade a spade. 4 to 6 panels is going to take 10 to 12 years payback time. My argument is I'd rather pay the ESB provider than wait that length of time. So there definitely is houses, smaller houses that haven't got roof space in housing estates. They're very limited to their size. Yeah. So if they're spending a lot of electricity, but yet again they can only fit 4 to 6 panels on the roof, is it really pointless? There's not much point in it, you know. So there definitely is different systems for different houses. And again, I would say you'll have other companies that will give a price on system size, 2, 3, 4, 5 kilowatt systems off the bat. We treat every job individual because there's different variations to every job, you know, from the cabling to the roofing and stuff like that. So we're not just a one fit all, you know. We'll come and we'll spec it, look at your bills, give you the exact system size that will work for you, not just put it on the roof because you want a solar system.
Gary, if people do want to find out more about yourselves and service that you offer, where can they find you?
So our website is www.ocm.ie, or you can check us on the social medias, Facebook, LinkedIn or Instagram.
You heard there from Faber Pallet Stoves in Rochford Bridge, Energy Superstore in Cappincur, and OCM Electrical and Energy in Tullamore there up last. And that was just a few of the companies in attendance at the event. So there really are plenty of businesses in the locality to help you explore ways to lower your energy costs, all whilst being more environmentally friendly. And as Gary said there, it always pays off to go with your local companies, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to be able to provide you with maybe the same level of service from the offset, but definitely it's really in that follow-up care that you're getting. When you have someone who's local, who's nearby, who can come in and check in on things if you have any issues, that's really where you see the benefit of it. So as I said, they've all mentioned their social medias there and where you can get in touch with them. So if there's something that you're looking into, it's worth exploring, because at the moment, with the amount of grants that are being, circulated around, there really are so many ways to reduce your energy costs, being more environmentally friendly, and as I said, they are available for you there, and that's really what was being in the media this morning to talk about it. So look into it, because there are definitely money there for you to be had, and you may as well be in your pocket as anyone else's. That is it from me tonight. With next Monday being a bank holiday, there will be no Let's Go Green, but the week after, Aisling O'Rourke will be back on hosting duties the following Monday. That is May 11th. How is it May already? As I said there earlier when I was chatting to Miriam, summer really will be upon us before we know it. And if you do have a story you feel deserves a spotlight on the show, do email Aisling on hello@thecommunicationscoach.ie. Don't worry, you're not getting rid of me that easily. I'll be back in this chair on Thursday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. with Encore, bringing you the best of what's happening in the arts and entertainment across the Midlands. On Thursday night show, let's have a look to see what we've coming up. Great show lineup this week. I'm going to be chatting to comedian and activist Ailish McCarthy on our ongoing battle for comedy to be recognised as an official art form. Imagine that was only something that recently came into play, that comedy was properly recognised as an art form. Encore on tour strikes again. Yes, this week I'm going to be out and about chatting to different directors about plays that are coming up. We've also got loads of plays and musicals happening in the Midlands at the moment across all the 3 counties. So there's no shortages of plays coming up, and we have an Irish traditional music legend coming on. But that's it for me. Taking over after the news at 8 is Joe Cooney with Country Roads. Until next time, good night.